If you've spent enough time digging through old field manuals, surplus inventories, and Cold War survival guides, you've probably experienced that jolt, the moment you spot some obscure piece of gear that quietly outperforms the flashy modern stuff. Today's story starts with one of those moments. A deceptively simple piece of fabric, heavy, silent, almost overbuilt. And the wild part? This thing shrugged off rain better than half the synthetics people swear by today. It didn't tear, didn't crumble under sun, didn't sweat you out like a plastic coffin. It just worked, decade after decade, as if it were some kind of Viking-era relic smuggled into the 20th century. And no exaggeration here. It never leaked, because it was engineered the old way, with patience, craftsmanship, and a deep understanding of how natural fibres behave under pressure. This is the kind of forgotten technology serious history buffs love, because it shows exactly how much knowledge modern convenience has steamrolled. The Cold War militaries that relied on this material weren't chasing lightweight convenience. They needed gear that could survive mountain storms, remote listening posts, and months in the open without maintenance. That meant durability, breathability, and absolute reliability. So, instead of cheap plastics, they reached for tightly woven cotton or linen duck canvas, a fabric so dense that water droplets had to fight their way in with brute force. But the weave was only half the sorcery. The real transformation happened after treatment. The canvas was soaked in a mixture of oils, linseed, tall oil, plant-based blends thinned with mineral spirits, not slapped on top like modern sprays, deeply absorbed, thoroughly cured, allowed to oxidize until those oils polymerized into a flexible, waterproof barrier locked inside every fiber. This wasn't coating. This was metamorphosis. The fabric didn't just repel water, it became water-defiant. Rain rolled off. Snow didn't melt through. And even when scraped, bent or folded, the treatment stayed where it belonged, inside the weave. That's why so many Cold War surplus tents still shed water today, as if they're fresh off an assembly line. Anyone who's ever watched a cheap plastic tarp disintegrate under sunlight knows the frustration. It goes brittle, it rips at the grommets, and it eventually shreds into blue confetti scattered across the forest floor. The Cold War canvas didn't do that. As the oil cured over the years, the fibres swelled, tightened, and toughened. Small punctures stayed small. Pressure didn't spread them. Even when snow piled up or wind tried to rip seams apart, the canvas held. This was engineering born from centuries of maritime and frontier knowledge. Sailmakers, trappers, explorers, they all understood how oil and fibre worked together. Cold War militaries simply refined the process and did it at scale. It's the opposite of disposable culture. The more the canvas endured, the more battle-ready it became. Ask any survivalist, and they'll tell you condensation can ruin a shelter faster than rain. Modern tarps trap moisture, turning tents into dew factories. But this canvas breathed. It let vapour escape while blocking liquid water. Exactly what you want in cold environments, where trapped moisture can freeze gear solid. Troops stationed in the deep forests of Scandinavia, the Carpathians and Siberia wrote about the difference immediately. Their tents stayed dry inside during storms. Frost didn't build up, mould didn't creep in. Radios stayed functional, ammunition stayed usable, and clothing stayed safe from the misery of overnight moisture. That breathability was a tactical advantage, and honestly, it remains a survival advantage today. If you're into bushcraft, off-grid building, reenacting, or you just want gear that won't abandon you, you can replicate this old-school system using the same ingredients Cold War militaries trusted. Start with a heavy canvas, something dense, army duck, sailcloth, or untreated surplus fabric. The weave matters as much as the treatment, so don't go light. Then create the oil blend. The classic ratio is boiled linseed oil and mineral spirits, 1:1. The spirits thin the oil, so it penetrates deep and evenly. You can brush it on, roll it on, or soak smaller pieces outright. Once treated, give it days, plural, to cure outdoors. As oxygen works its chemistry, you'll see the canvas darken, stiffen slightly, and become naturally hydrophobic. If you want to level it up even more, just add a little beeswax or, pine tar. Those ingredients, well, they give abrasion-heavy gear a rugged finish and were widely used by trappers and early explorers. When everything is cured, go ahead and pour water onto the fabric. If beading happens immediately, you nailed it. This method works for tent flies, pack covers, lean-to roofs, long-term cache covers, and even old-school rucks. Unlike synthetic sprays, this treatment doesn't wash off in a season. It lasts years. This is where the history becomes practical. The Cold War canvas wasn't shiny, it wasn't featherlight, it was consistent. A shelter made from it could outlast storms, snow loads, and months of use without degrading. A ground sheet made from it wouldn't shred under rocks and roots. A gear cover made from it could keep radios or tools bone dry. And because it didn't trap moisture, it was safer in freezing climates. Serious off-grid builders use this canvas today to roof long-term lean-tos. Some wilderness instructors use it for field workshops where sparks or abrasion would destroy a synthetic tarp. Bushcrafters use it for packs that survive decades of rough handling. And if you treat your own fabric, you're not just crafting gear. You're tapping into a tradition that outperformed modern industry long before the digital age. This canvas wasn't an accessory. It was a survival system, a combination of natural materials, patient craftsmanship, and battlefield-tested pragmatism. The kind of thing history buffs respect because it shows that older technology didn't just work. It excelled. Thanks for spending time with me here on HistoryHQ. If you want more deep-cut historical survival tech, more forgotten gear, and more stories that still matter today, hit subscribe, share this with a fellow history enthusiast, and help keep these lost skills alive.